everybody, what's going on? It's Alex here, coming at you with another video, and today I'm just going to be making a nice, chill, and informal type of video where I show you my photo editing process in Lightroom. I guess you could call it something like a Lightroom for beginners type of video. And like I said, gonna be very informal, so I won't be, it's gonna be one long take. I won't be like cutting the video up and things like that. If you've remembered in past videos of mine, if you've ever watched them, you might recall me saying that I'd like to expand this channel's content outside of just like fashion related videos. So for example, photography. I've been a photographer for over 10 years. I've done it professionally. I now just do it as a hobby, but I also am into, outdoors and traveling. I'm big into nature, hiking, exploring national parks. And so I want to be making some videos related to that content as well, lifestyle related things. So hopefully you all enjoy that. Obviously the fashion videos will still be coming as I'm also into fashion. I'm also a software engineer and I love coding, but I don't foresee me making any coding related videos on this channel just because that's really outside the wheelhouse of what I'm trying to make this content about. But like I said, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I edit in Lightroom. Now this is a disclaimer. This is how I edit. I don't know everything about Lightroom, but I know enough to make my photos look the way I want them to look. And I've been using Lightroom pretty much since the beginning of when I've been doing photography. Before we get into the actual editing process, I just want to show like a couple of my photos that I've edited more recently just to show you my work, give you an idea. And you can always find more of my work on my Instagram, which I pretty much link, I think, in every video down below. So we'll click on preview here. And I'm just going to show you. I'm not going to go into too much detail. This video is probably going to be a bit longer than my normal video, so feel free to skip around whatever you want to do. But I'm just going to give a quick explanation about each one. So essentially, this right here is a sunset at Mount Rainier National Park. This one right here was of a stack of rocks that I found at Olympic National Park, and I just thought it looked really moody and cool. Once again, I took and edited all of these. This one is at, a lot of these are in Washington actually. This one is at North Cascades National Park, and I believe this lake right here is called Diablo Lake. Super teal. I did not edit that to make it look more teal. It actually is that teal. This was in Monument Valley in Arizona, and it was like some type of retail stand that was either abandoned or no one is just currently at, and I just thought the scene looked really cool. This one is also in Mount Rainier National Park, and this is actually Mount Rainier, and I just love the scene with like the purple like wildflowers or whatever they are in the foreground with these trees here. This one is Half Dome at Yosemite, and I actually this is my most recently edited one. I just edited this like 2 days ago. So yeah, that's Half Dome, and I was at the top of a hike that I had done. I think it's called 4 Mile Trail. And then here's a portrait. I wanted to throw one portrait in there. Here's a portrait of my friend Matt, and this was in Utah, in I believe Canyonlands National Park. So as you can see, like from the theme of my photos I just showed you, I'm pretty much only a landscape photographer now. I used to do professional photography, like I said, like your engagement shoots. I did food photo shoots. I shot a couple weddings, all different things like that, product shots. But as of the past, I don't know, like 4 years and, up until now, I just do it for hobby now. I just do it for fun. So yeah, so basically my editing style is usually pretty like, I like to make my photos look more like they were shot with a film camera in a way. And so when I'm showing you how I edit in Lightroom, once again, this is how I edit. So I'll show you what things do, but you can tailor it to, every photographer, artist has their own style. So you can cater it to however you like to do it. But this is how I like to edit. I will say that also, I can kind of edit differently depending on the day, depending on the photo. So how I edit this photo that we're going to work on right now is not necessarily how I edit all my photos. But I decided we're going to take a look at this one just because I like that it has this blue sky up here. We got these nice like yellow and green down here. So we have some different colors, and it's kind of separated into thirds, right? You have like the blue sky, you have the rock, and then you have the trees, and then you actually have the field at the bottom. So first things I like to do, which sometimes I forget, is I like to take care of anything, and my video might pop in and out during this. So just be aware, you may not be able to see me during part of the video, but I like to take care of like these types of spots that show up. So I had something on my camera like sensor or lens during this trip, so I have like these dark spots showing up a lot. So for that, and let me see, maybe I can move this over to there. Yeah, you can kind of see my face peeking in. So for that, we would use what's called a healing tool, and I like to use is it the clone tool or the heal tool? I'll use the clone tool for this. So basically what you do is select that clone tool. I'm gonna click on the area I want, and then I'll choose the other area I want to pull from, like right nearby. So that looks about good. So cool. So I just took care of that spot. So actually you can still see it. So let's go back in. Let's delete that. And let's grab this whole area. Let's see how that looks. Okay, that looks a bit better. Okay, so now you can't see that spot anymore. I also have one way up here. So we're gonna do the same thing. It's kind of hard to see, like once you get closer on the area, it's hard for me to see it. Okay, so we got that taken care of. Cool. And just for the sake, if there's any little spots, like we'll just leave it. Like that's how, that's good enough. So then what I work with first is I go with the light up here. So and I may come back to this, like I kind of move around sometimes, but this is just my general workflow. So first, I think it's a little dark overall, so I'm just gonna brighten it up just a little bit like that. So I brightened it up maybe like there, so 0.77. Contrast is something I usually don't touch. I usually mess with like shadows and the blacks down here. I don't really like touching contrast very often, so I'll leave that. Highlights, I'm gonna bring down a bit just because if you look in like this rock area and here, it's just really like blown out. So I'm gonna just kind of lower that highlight just a little bit so you can get more detail. Another thing I like to do is I like to zoom in. I'm probably I care too much about like clarity and like focus, because most times when people are looking at your photos, like they don't even notice stuff like that. But looking in here, like this all looks really in focus for how far away I am. The trees aren't, but that's because of the aperture I was at. But like this whole background area and even like part of this tree and this, they're pretty much in focus, so that all looks good. And then we're gonna take shadows, and I usually like to make dark shadows, but on this one I don't think I want to mess with it too much, just because the shadow like right there on the face of Half Dome is already really dark, so I'm not gonna mess with that too much. The whites, once again, like basically when I'm editing, I just do this kind of like I just move the slider around and I just say, okay, like do I like that? Do I think that looks good? Do I think it not looks good? In this case, I don't like how I can move the whites up maybe a little bit, but I don't want to make it super bright, so we'll make it like maybe 20. And then the blacks I'll bring down just a tiny bit, just because I like the rich blacks. Now here's the point curve, and what I usually do is one here, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. So basically this one down here is going to be used, and once again I don't know the exact definition of every piece in the software, but what I use it for is to fade out the shadows and just the areas that have black in them. So Like if you'll notice here when I'm playing with it, like this whole area is getting faded out, right? So if I go back down, it's not faded at all. If I move it up a bit, it's more faded. And I don't do that in necessarily every picture, but I do prefer it because, like I said, I like more of like a film look, which the faded gives you more of that film look. So in this case, I actually do like it, so I'm gonna move it up to about, maybe, I don't want to like overdo it and have it like super faded, but maybe to like right there for now. This is also gonna be like your shadows and stuff, which I don't want to mess with too much because it's already pretty dark. So we'll leave that maybe like just a little bit down. Then these are like your midtones. I usually don't mess with this too much because it really drastically changes the photos. Like if you notice when I move it just down a little bit, it gets really, the colors get really dark and saturated, and then up here it gets too washed out. So I usually leave that around there. And then highlights, you know, depending, I mess around with those. Let's see what we want. Maybe like right there, just a little bit down. And then I'm gonna bring these highlights down a bit too. Just a little bit. All right, so far, that was the original, that's the new one. So we've just basically made it brighter in a way, but it looks better already, in my opinion. I think this camera, I have a Sony, it takes really good photos right out of the camera, but you know, always got to give it a little editing because it's still not going to look like it does with your eye when you're seeing it in person. I usually don't mess too much with this color tab. Sorry, not with the color tab, with the temp, tint, vibrance, and saturation. If I do notice that the photo is like too green or too purple, then I'll kind of shift just a little bit. Like if it's, you know, looking like that, that's a little too green. But usually, let's see, I might just make it slightly less green. Usually I don't mess with the tint, and I don't change like saturation and stuff because I do that by color. So that's where we're gonna get into it right here. So for example, I am going to take down the blue saturation a little bit. Like it's a little bit too blue in my opinion. I don't like pictures like, I feel like when I was a beginner at photography, I used to put all my photos like, you know, blue sky, maybe not that blue, but like blue sky. But I'm not really a fan of that anymore as much, so I like to do it a little less saturated, right? And then I like to bring the luminance down just a bit. So we'll bring that down here. Maybe even mess with the saturation. So like that type of blue is what I like. Like it's still blue, but it's, you know, not super saturated, and it's darker, right? So if I made this really bright, the luminance, it would be all like washed out, which, you know, I don't think looks bad in this case, but I just like making it a little bit kind of darker. So whoops, not delete. So we'll leave it like that. Okay, actually, make it a little darker. There we go. And then I don't really mess with the hue just because that's going to make it like purple or like really teal, which I don't want. So then let's go into the yellows, and I'm going to also bring the saturation down a little on this just because it's like, it's really colorful, which, I mean, it's fine. It's not bad. It's just not really what I'm going for. So I'm going to just bring that saturation down just a little bit like that. And then we're going to go to orange and mess around with that a little bit. I like the orange color, honestly. Like orange is one of my more favorite colors in photos. So we can leave that like that. I'm cool with that. I still don't really love the yellow. It's like almost like a mustard yellow. Maybe I can make it more. Okay, I kind of like that more. And then, no, we don't want to mess with the luminance. Maybe scale the saturation down a little more. Okay, and then we'll go to the greens, and we want to make these a little brighter, I would say. Like this tree right here, I'd like to make that a bit brighter. And for this hue, you don't want to make it like super green like that, but maybe just bump that up a little so you get kind of like more rich green colors in here. And there is green up here. Well, that part's washed out, but I mean out of focus. But there's like green up here, but you know, that's not really going to change much unless I take a selector tool and go up and do that, which I'm not going to. One thing I'm also noticing is like there's a kind of like a haze on the photo back here. So I'm just going to kind of dehaze that a little bit. So you see how like here it's kind of, there's a haze. There's like a film in front of it. But if I do this, it kind of goes away. So I'm going to take that haze off a little bit just because, you know, it looks a bit better when I do that. I'm also noticing some more dots up here. My lens must have been dirty, but I'm just going to leave it. So now we got this to this. So we've messed with some of the colors down here. We brightened the scene up. The grass, if you notice, like down below, goes from like kind of more orange looking to more yellow, which is more true to like how it looked when I was actually there. So that is looking good. And I think for colors, there's not really purple, pink. I mean, there probably is somewhere in there, but it's not, you know, major noticeable. And then red. There's not really any red. As I'm moving this around, there's really no red. So we don't have to mess with that. I'll tell you what, I'm really not liking how bright the yellows are, personally. I'm not a big fan of yellow in my photos, if you can't tell. So I just brought those down a little bit more. All right. Now we're moving on. I don't know how long this video is. Once again, like I said, you can skip around. This is just kind of like a let's hang out and edit photos type of video. So now we have color grading. So you can change the colors of your shadows, of your highlights, and of your midtones. So I'll show you what that means. So basically, this is the color wheel, right? We have all the colors. The farther out you drag this circle, the more intense and saturated the color becomes. And then you can move the color around the circle, right, to get your different colors. Excuse me. So I sometimes, so back when a long time ago, I used to like really heavily edit my photos and make them look like, you know, very like filmy, like add all these colors. And I like to do more of like clean edits now, but I do like to do slight like highlights and shadow edits. So what I usually do is I kind of make it more intense at first just so I can see the effects of what is this going to do to my photo. And then I just really take the color wheel and I go around in a circle and I see like what I like the most. So I don't like that. That's too teal. Let me see. If I drag the teal back a little. Not loving the teal there. Blue isn't really too noticeable. Maybe some orange. What does orange look like? Whoops. All right, we'll just put a slight orange highlight on it for now. Although I might make the shadows orange. Let's look at shadows. So the shadows is going to change color only where there are shadows. It makes shadows kind of makes it like too orange. Maybe I'll make it like way less. And then maybe we'll do the highlights to like blue. Okay, I kind of like that. So I made the foreground look like, which a lot of the shadows are all like down here, right? So like I made this look more like orange, which I like. Once again, I like orange in photos, and I think like when you make like look at when I bump the orange all the way up, it gives it more of like a faded film, like a certain type of film stock, but it gives it that type of look. So I'm gonna actually keep that there, and then the highlights are gonna be blue, just to even the photo out a little and not make it so like warm. Yeah, I'm liking how that looks. So this is the original. This is what we're at now. Boom, boom. And cool. So midtones I'm not gonna mess around with very much, just because that changes like the look of like basically the whole photo. So I think for the purpose of this video, I would have to sit here and play with it for like a long time, and this video is already long. So for the purpose of this video, midtones are going to 0. Then we come down to effects. So clarity nowadays, I used to make things more clear like this. Not like, yeah, probably like there. Like that would be how I made it. You know, looks like, makes it look like really crisp and stuff. But I don't like that look anymore. So what I actually do is I usually put less clarity on it. I make it more like foggy, like dreamy. You know, like basically if you bump the clarity all the way, or you put the clarity all the way down, it looks like almost like a dreamscape. But obviously to me that's too much. So I'm just gonna bring the clarity down just a little bit, maybe like the 15 range or so. And then because I like my photos to look more film-like, I'm gonna add that grain in there, which gives it, you know, look at all that noise, that beautiful noise with the grain effect. All right, guys, I'm filming this part a bit later, but I just wanted to wrap the video up. And I wanted to quickly say that I actually ended up changing the sky after the video, because I realized, like I was talking about how I don't like it too saturated, and I was looking at it, something looked off. So the blue was a little too saturated, so I took it down a bit. I also figured out how to make the picture full screen, which is just F. So here's the final product. So basically in this one, just to recap, we went from that to this, which in this edit is mostly just like, you know, brightening, and it was just some changing of colors and kind of like the tint of the photo, which you can notice that it has more of like a film, quote unquote, like film type look from the original, which is just darker overall. And so yeah, so this one was more of a simple edit. Like I said, my edits change depending on the photo, depending on, you know, how I'm feeling, things like that. But anyway, I doubt most people made it to the end of the video, but if you did, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for watching regardless, even if you don't watch the whole video. Like I said, just more of an informal, laid back type of video, and you know, if you want me to make more like this, edit other photos, let me know. I could even do live streams on Twitch, and we could just hang out, and I could edit photos, and we could talk about stuff. But yeah, just let me know, leave a comment down below if you like this video, or what you'd like to see in the future. But thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.